One of the most important new features in Android Studio 2 is called Instant Run. In the past, every time you made any change to your application, whether in Java, resources, or configuration, you'd have to completely rebuild and relaunch the app on the device. With Instant Run, you can make certain changes that can be added to or changed in a running app on the device without relaunching or even shutting the app down. To get started with this feature, go to your Preferences or Settings dialog. Then go to Build Execution Deployment and click on Instant Run. This feature is enabled by default in Android Studio 2. The most important is the first option, enabling the feature in general. It allows you to hot swap code and resource changes on the fly. To see the full power of this feature, though, uncheck this option labeled Restart Activity on Code Changes, but leave the other two options selected. Then click OK. Now, I'm going to continue using the same app I have in previous videos, but you can experiment with this feature using any Android app at all. The most important thing to understand is that it only works going back to Android 4 Ice Cream Sandwich, API 15. But I'll be using the most recent version of Android, Android 6 Marshmallow, so I won't have any problems with this. I'll run the app on my device. Now, as the app is currently designed, when I click the Eat Memory button, I'll start showing messages on my text view component. In order to demonstrate this, I'll work fairly quickly. I'll click the Eat Memory button, and I see the text view starting to change. Then I'll come back over here and go to my onProgress update method, and I'll add a toast message. I'll set the context to mainActivity.this, and I'll output the message. Now I'll run the application again, and I see the message in the lower left corner saying Instant Run Applied Code Changes. I'll switch back to my device and notice that the state of the app hasn't changed. I'm still seeing the number of items is 200,000. I'll click the Eat Memory button again, and I start seeing the value keep on climbing, but now I'm seeing my toast messages. So what's happened is that Java code has been inserted into the running app without even restarting the current activity. This can be an enormous time saver. Now, this isn't always what happens. There are a few different states and reactions to know about. If you simply make a change to your Java code, but you don't change any method names or modify resources or configuration files, your app can be updated on the fly without closing the current activity. This is called a hot swap, and that's what I just demonstrated. If you add, remove, or rename any of the app's resources, your current activity minimally will need to be restarted, but you shouldn't have to reinstall the complete app package. That's called a warm swap. And if you change any of your Java class names or method headers, add fields, or do anything else that changes the basic structure of your Java code, your app will need to be relaunched from scratch. That's called a cold swap, and it's what happens in older versions of Android Studio. There are some limitations to know about. Instant Run only works on devices running Android 4, API level 15 or later. But regardless of Android version, it only works on debug builds, not on release builds. To check and make sure you're using the right kind of build, go to your Build Variants window and check it right here. If you launch a release build, you won't get the Instant Run capability. And that's because in order to make this feature work, additional components are being added to the debug version of your application before it's launched on the device. And that's how Android Studio is then able to communicate with the running app. Those components aren't available in the release version. The Instant Run feature has continued to evolve during the Android 2.0 beta cycle. For the most up-to-date info on this feature, go to this page at tools.android.com/tech-docs/instant-run.